my job is New England and mostly the East. And I love lording it over the West when we get early snow. So at least I can do that.
Welcome to the storm. I'm your host, Stuart Winchester. Time for what many of you consistently tell me is your favorite episode of the year, my annual conversation with New England ski journalist Shaun Sutner. Before we get to Sutner, I want to quickly thank all of the paid subscribers to the Storm Skiing Journal and Podcast. If you would like to support this mission of independent ski journalism, you can do so by clicking over to stormskiing.com and signing up for the Storm Skiing newsletter. There are free and paid versions. We also sell merch at stormskiing.myshopify.com. Check out our store. You can get a hat, hoodie, t-shirt, sticker, or more. All right, before we get into Sutner, a lot of you are going to leave this pod wondering how you can visit some of the rad places we discuss here. Many of you, especially near NYC, may not have easy access to the wheels you need to get you up to the bump. So let me tell you about my friends at Island Snowbus. Long Island, Queen skiers, I know you have a long way to drive for skiing. I know I'm out in the same hood. If you are tired of waking up in the middle of the night and driving alone up to the bump, then driving all the way home after a ski day, give Island Snowbus a try. They have pickups throughout Suffolk and Nassau counties, and also Eastern Queens near the Whitestone Bridge. Island Snowbus plans single and multi-day trips to some of the best-known ski areas in our region, including Stratton, Killington, Mount Snow, Jay Peak, Sugarloaf, Whiteface, Gore, Bel Air, and Hunter. When a big storm rolls through, Island Snowbus will throw together a pop-up trip if they can. Island Snowbus offers packages that include both lift tickets and transportation, or if you already have your Icon, your Epic Pass, your Season Pass, just the bus ride. Yes, it's an early pickup, but crash out, you sleep, you're ready to ski upon arrival, and you can always hook up with some other folks on the bus who are looking for ski buddies. To check out Island Snowbus's 2025-26 winter calendar, visit islandsnowbus.com, and you can use the code STORM for $50 off your first trip. You know who else supports the Storm? The Slopes Ski Tracker app. I love Slopes, and I am so fired up to have them back as a partner for the 2025-26 winter. If you're not familiar with Slopes, download it right away. It is an incredible ski tracking app. It compiles your stats by day, trip, season, or lifetime. And I am so fired up this year because I am a Slopes ambassador, which means you can find me out on the bump. All you need to do is follow me at Instagram at Storm Ski Journal to see where I am skiing that day. Then download Slopes and look for me. My location will be public. You can track me down. I'll hook you up with some slope stickers. Maybe we can take some turns if you have time for me. If you want to try Slopes, you can claim a free premium day pass by clicking on the link in the article that accompanies this podcast on stormskiing.com. Just as with the Storm, there's a free basic version and an upgraded premium version. All right, let's get into episode 223 of the Storm Skiing Podcast. Shaun Sutner, Snowsports columnist for the Worcester Telegram and Gazette. My guest today is a very good friend of the Storm, making a record-smashing 5th appearance on the podcast. He has been covering New England skiing as the Snowsports columnist for the Worcester Telegram and Gazette and Telegram.com for more than 2 decades, among many other journalistic endeavors. Shaun Sutner is my guest. Shaun, welcome back to the Storm on video this time. Looking good, my man. How you feeling today?
I'm feeling great. Glad to be here. Even though I have a face made for radio, we'll give this YouTube thing a shot.
You're looking good, and you're a pro. I know you'll crush it, but you're recovering from an injury. So tell us about the injury, what happened, and what that means for your ski season, Shaun.
Okay, not to over-dramatize this, but it was a bit of a gruesome injury and had nothing to do with skiing whatsoever, but it has a lot to do with impinging on my ski season, which means I can't ski till February. But I play a lot of tennis in the summer and fall and spring, and I have my whole life, and I was playing competitive old guy tennis. Competitive old guy doubles, and I sprinted from one side of the court to the other to get a ball that I never could have gotten, and I ripped my hamstring right off the bone. Tore my hamstring. Wow. It's called a full proximal hamstring rupture, and only 6% of all hamstring injuries are full tears. Basically, it's an older wannabe athlete injury. So I hustled, I found a really great surgeon. I want to talk about her because I'm interviewing her for my ski column, my Snowsports column, because she's a ski orthopedist. And even though this is not a ski injury, so she fixed me up. I had surgery August 7th, and now I'm on this like fairly brutal regime of PT twice a week, and then where they try to hurt you as much as possible to heal you. And then you've been in PT, and then I'm in the gym, and then I'm walking, but I can't like hike, and I can't ski till February, it really is tearing me up to see all y'all having fun out there in the early season. And I've been up to Watchussett, and I'm going crazy. But we'll see how my first ski column year in 21 years goes without being able to ski at the beginning of the season.
Well, you made Watchussett's opening day video, so I know you were up there. So you're making the rounds at video in ski media, even without being out there, Shaun. I mean, have you ever had an injury that delayed the start of your ski season before?
Never in my whole life since I started skiing at about 6 or 8 years old. Never.
So how are you dealing with it? Because, I had to deal with that midseason injury 3 years ago, and I was actually okay because I had a lot to do and I kept myself very busy. But that's just me, and everyone handles these things differently. What's been your coping mechanism, and what has worked?
Okay, well, I also had a couple of mid-season injuries. One, like in December 19th, I tore my ACL, so I was out for the rest of the year. But at least I got to ski for 2 or 3 weeks. Okay. My coping mechanism is working out. It's being compliant with my PT, protocol, which is pretty rigorous. Going to PT, doing the PT strengthening, stretching at home, and then going to the gym and starting to build up strength. So that's what I did after my ACL injury years ago. That's what I did after my torn rotator cuff. So I'm just doing that. And let's see, I was watching a lot of tennis on TV, even though I injured myself playing tennis. I don't know, maybe it gives me a little more flexibility now with the column. The thing is, I'm a little worried because I won't get the content from being on the slopes. Yeah. So maybe my column will look a little different this season from being more of an armchair or just interviewing people. So I'm coping okay, but not that well. It's depressing.
Yeah. It's a different kind of journalism, right? One of my journalism professors, one of these things that always stuck with me was she just said, go there. There's no substitute for going there. And this was almost 20 years ago. This was before Zoom and everything made remote reporting a little bit more palatable. But the difference in the quality of a podcast on a mountain I have skied versus one I haven't skied, I feel is substantial. Now, I hope that the people reading and listening can't tell that much because I do try to overcompensate with research.
Yeah.
But it is a lot different to report on if you can't be there.
100%. It's you same thing. And I was in news reporting for 28 years, regular news reporting, all daily newspapers and such. And there's no substitute for getting out of the office. It's like you get out, even if it's something small, you never know what you're going to see, what you're going to report. Also the texture of the experience, the quality of the snow, the light, the skiers you meet, the snowboarders you meet. There's no substitute. And so I think I might go up to North Conway the week before Christmas for a couple of days, just hang around the lodge with my ski buddies, see how that goes, be a lodge mom for a couple of days without kids. But we'll see. I mean, I just want to get through it and to get back on the slopes. And I've already got my different ski trips set up for February and March. And also dreaming of going back to South America next summer to sort of recoup some of the days I missed.
You got to make that happen. And maybe you can make it an extra long trip. The best analogy I can think of, Shaun, is when you watch a sports game at home. Like I have season tickets to Michigan football, and I end up going to 4 or 5 games per year in the stadium. And in the stadium, my seats are in like the 9,000th row, and I can barely really see what's going on, even though there are gigantic jumbotrons there. And at home, I can see everything perfectly in HD, and I'm comfortable, and I can go to the bathroom to wait in line. But the experience of being there is so much more all-encompassing and so much more immersive that you can understand why a sports reporter has to go there and not just watch the game on TV, even though they can see the game a lot better and they get the context from the announcers and all this other stuff. There's just something about being there in person that really makes a huge difference.
One interesting analog to that is watching a ski race. Okay, It seems abstract on TV. They all look the same coming down, but I've been to a couple World Cup ski races, and it's like a gladiatorial atmosphere. It's huge. It's super dramatic. It's the roar of the crowd, and you can see the snow coming off the skis as they go around the gates. It's a lot different than watching ski racing on TV with these little tiny figures coming down, and you don't know which one is which. Because I still am a ski racing fan, and I'm helping out my old ski racing team at Watchussett. Like, I'm the captain from afar, doing their organizational and motivational stuff.
It's also hard to understand watching a ski race on TV, and I guess I still don't understand this because I've not seen one in person either because I don't cover racing. It is how you can see the whole course, or how the fans are arrayed along the course, or if they're just near the bottom. How do they generally set up up that?
Mostly near the bottom, especially on downhill Super G. It's impossible to see the whole course. It's just, the laws of physics. You just can't see the whole course. But a place like Superstar is the ideal venue because you can see 90% of the full course from the corral in the bottom, okay, and from the stands. So they have massive TV. They're not jumbotrons. They're Megatron TVs, huge TVs like in Europe that, you can see the top, and very few people hike up, to midway vantage points. Some aficionados do. They know just the right spot to see the maximum number, but it's quite dangerous to hike up next to a ski racing course. It's very steep and icy, slippery, and so you basically sit in the stands and you see the jumbotron and you see the finish. That's the basic standard in live. With a few exceptions like night slalom races and a lot of slalom, you can see the whole thing. And by the way, Schifrin just won her second slalom in a row. And a ski friend of mine just called me, goes, "I'm getting bored with her winning." Like, how can you be bored with someone winning all the time? She's so phenomenal.
Yeah, I think that's the New York Yankees effect, where people just had enough of them at a certain point back in the 90s. So you mentioned Superstar. For listeners who are not familiar, that is where Killington holds its Women's World Cup event normally on Thanksgiving week. They are not doing that this year because they're getting a new lift, which we'll talk about in a minute. I do want to talk about, Shaun, this must be an extra brutal winter to be injured because it's one of the best starts to a season that we've had in several years. What are your thoughts so far on this budding winter, Shaun, and how much does that just press on the injury?
It presses on the injury a hell of a lot. It makes me insane to watch this stuff going on. I'm a big, Eastern skiing, flag bearer. You went national a few years ago. More power to you. You do an amazing job. But my job is New England and mostly the East. And I love lording it over the West when we get early snow. So at least I can do that.
Did you see for a time last year, Jay was the snowiest in America? They had more than Alta.
Yes, I did, and that's not all that unusual. I mean, to have more than Alta is that's a feat. But we talk a little bit about the J cloud. There's another cloud descending on the ski industry in the Northeast too, but it's not. That's my little joke, but it's not J. But yeah, I saw Steve Wright at the Boston Ski Expo, the great GM of J, and he was just stunned by the amount of snow that was coming down. It was like, he's of course grappling with the lack of Canadian visitation this year, and it's weird. Like, the Canadians are not coming to Sugar because of the tariffs. Sugarloaf, Sunday River, Jay, Stowe, right? They're not coming. It's like a 90% drop off, and that's a large part of their business. But we are going up there in more numbers than ever before, which is odd.
Is the Canadian visitation the other cloud you were referring to, Shaun?
No, I was referring to the cloud that seems to have settled over Black Mountain, New Hampshire.
Oh, let's talk about it.
I was just reading up a little bit on it. I had been following it, and we all, to your listeners and viewers, I mean, the new owners of Black, fairly new owners, Eric Mogensen of Indy and Entabeni, they owns those companies. They bought Black, and now they're in a big dispute with the town of Jackson over a liquor license for a nondescript ramshackle shack up on the mountain. And the levels of ridiculousness of this story are so many. I don't know where to begin. I mean, for one thing, to file a federal lawsuit that Eric did against a tiny New Hampshire town over a half-assed liquor license, that's fairly ridiculous, number one. Number two, they should have a liquor license, so it's ridiculous that they don't. Secondly, the selectmen voted 2-0 to deny it. Like, how do you vote 2-0 to deny a liquor license? I mean, surely you need more votes than 2. And then there's the personality dispute between the police chief and Eric Mogensen. But it seems like anyone who's running Black is having personality disputes, conflicts with someone, because given the back history of Black, which was involved alcohol at times as well. And so it's just, I don't know, it's just one of those bizarre, and everybody loves Black. There's a lot of goodwill because, Eric Mogensen's done a tremendous job resuscitating that place, but something about it lends itself to a party atmosphere, and Eric and company have done nothing to diminish that, the party part of Black. Sometimes the skiing gets lost in the equation. The skiing is so quirky and fun there that I hate to see it overshadowed by a dispute over a liquor license.
So Eric did a really good job of reinventing Black. And I believe that when we discussed this last year, and I was on the record in several places saying this, I didn't understand the appeal of Black as a co-op. Because if you look at Mad River Glen, sure, that works as a co-op, but it's 2,000 vertical feet and they get 250 inches of snow per year. Black Mountain is half of both of those things. And it's surrounded by Attitash and Wildcat and Cranmore, which are better capitalized, which have high-speed lifts, which are modernized. And I didn't really know if Black had a place in the market. Now, I completely changed my mind when I went there in February and spent 3 days and skied around and saw how busy it was and how excited everyone was. And that ramshackle mid-mountain shack, Eric had taken that from, I think they made 20 grand on it the year before. They made $400,000 by turning it into a party pad, a champagne. They're the number 2 client of Clouseau. Oh, geez. Okay, I've sent off balloons. Champagne in America after Aspen Highlands, who makes their Cloud 9 thing this ridiculous party scene. So he did that, 4x the ski area's revenue, and I think really, as he sets up the co-op structure, is setting this place up for long-term stability and success. A lot of old heads I've talked to in and around the ski industry were a little bit poo-pooish about the party piece of it and thought that was tacky, I guess, for Black Mountain. Personally, I'm into it. I think that every mountain needs to be distinct in these days and needs to find its own character and identity. And Black was not succeeding as the ski area with the least capabilities in New Hampshire. So I'm feeling pretty good overall that the co-op can work. I think the liquor license thing is a little petty. The sheriff seemed to have gotten bent after he gave a bunch of parking tickets out and Eric paid them.
Yeah, I saw that.
But I'm feeling good about the co-op in Black Mountain in general, and I was not a year ago. Where's your head at with it?
All right. Well, the co-op issue is one thing. I mean, the party culture of Black is longstanding. It's not new. It's just amped up a bit. It's just there's this bar, the Lost Bow, that was always known as a rowdy bar. People from the Mount Washington Valley would go up there and party, not even ski at Black. And it just has that end of the world, like almost like you're in Key West during a hurricane feeling up in Black. It seems like for the East Coast, pretty remote and rough-hewn and hardscrabble. The co-op, all right, so I was under the impression the co-op would have happened by now. So I feel like it's delayed because the built-in market for Black is the homeowners. Okay, up there, there's a colony of townhomes and freestanding houses up there, and they're not enough to make that place hugely profitable, but they're enough to basically keep it open. And it's also Black's more affordable for like students, and it was an uphill mecca too for alpine touring, right? It was because the reason why is the topography it's an easy up and gnarly down. Okay, so it was, and the lifts are old and slow, so you don't even need the lifts. You just, so that's where Andrew Drummond of the White Mountain Ski Company really gave birth to a revolution in uphill alpine touring in New England. And that place was ground zero. And that had its own alcohol origin story too. There was a big party and fights with the police chief. And then, so now Andrew does all his events. Andrew Drummond, now great guy, by the way. Yeah, I'm a longtime customer and friend, and I profiled him in my column, but now he goes up to Black Mountain of Maine for all his events. No irony intended, it's got the same name. So I don't know if you can make it as a co-op. I mean, the skiing is good there, quirky, and if they have snow now, which they good snowmaking, but I don't know if it can a co-op can sustain it. I mean, as you've reported, ski areas need to make a profit, even if they're a nonprofit. They need to make revenue to reinvest. And I don't know if it's big enough to sustain a co-op. I really don't.
Yeah, we're facing a reckoning soon, I think, with ski areas that can and cannot modernize and figure out a path forward. And modernization does not always mean getting a high-speed lift. Mad River Glen still has a single chair, but they rebuilt it in 2007, right? So they took it apart, put in all new pieces, took the towers down, sandblasted them, put them back up. So it's essentially a new lift that's disguised as a really old lift.
Yes.
There's lots of ways you can do that, and there are a lot of ways forward. We saw Big Rock up in Maine, for example, through a series of grants and fundraising, because they had a very organized board, was able to scrape together $4 million to buy a new fixed grip, top to bottom, 1,000 vertical foot chairlift. And that's great. Most places won't be able to do that. So let's look at one that's in danger. That's Herman Mountain in Maine. And the Whitcomb family has owned Herman since 1988. They are the fourth owners since the ski area opened in 1964. So they really stabilized it after a few frantic decades. They had initially been asking $5 million for it because they want to retire. Their current price, last I saw, was about $2.1 million. They've said publicly, if we don't sell it, we're going to close it. Thoughts on Herman Mountain, Shaun, and a potential way forward there?
Well, have not a community group raised money toward buying it, or is that a Titcom?
If that is out there, I haven't seen it, but I haven't looked for it.
A viable effort underway to buy Herman. I think they've raised $2 million. I mean, I think that speaks to the whole issue of ski areas in a lot of New England towns are really a community. They're really mini communities of their own, or maybe not so many, in a way that a golf club is not a community, because a ski area is the whole family. And it's an economic driver in a lot of New England places, the snow economy. And it's needed. I mean, the rebuilding of Saddleback, the reopening of Saddleback was all about economic infrastructure as well as skiing. I love when they combine the two things. But so I feel like Northern Maine needs that place, and the community is going to rally around and is going to save it.
Let me look at it from a little bit different angle. When I look at Herman Mountain as someone who covers the entire country, what I see is a 256 vertical foot ski area with one double chair, one T-bar, a terrible website, 250 feet of vert, and a $530 season pass, not an Indy pass. They seem to have been left behind and haven't, from my point of view, responded to the modern ski marketplace in a way that would have kept them competitive. This seems self-inflicted, is my point.
Well, that's precisely what Black solved. Black Mountain of New Hampshire solved that. They stepped up an old-time throwback ski area into the modern era, doing the right things with systems, with data, with snowmaking. And yes, that's what even Mighty Ski Ward here in Massachusetts, small ski area of about the same vertical, it has invested in all that stuff, social media, snowmaking, no lift upgrades, but good lift maintenance and good marketing. And so you're absolutely right. And so the ones that don't, and the ones that do go out of business, I mean, it's almost like a natural selection. It's like someone will also be reborn, or some new group will come in with modern ideas and revive it. And that's happened all over the place, and as you pointed out, some years New England has more reopenings of formerly closed ski areas than, so you have a net more ski areas that season than you had the season before. And I feel like it's going to happen again. Maybe Herman will close, maybe Titcomb will close, and they'll either spring up again or something else will happen.
Yeah, let me play devil's advocate for a minute, because I think there's a reflex to, I'm not saying you're doing this, but to view all ski area closings through the lens of tragedy. And I wrote a story recently on a ski area here in New York State that's closing called Four Seasons. And Four Seasons was a ridiculous ski area. It was 107 vertical feet with a double chair and a carpet. And it was very cute, but it didn't make a lot of sense. And it was sitting there on very valuable land in what used to be farms around Syracuse, but now is surrounded by luxury housing developments. And the fellow, John Goodfellow is his name, he started it with his dad in the 50s. And he's been running it the whole time. From my point of view, and he was ready to retire. The only reason it lasted that long is because it had essentially a caretaker on site who inherited the land and was able to do it. It doesn't really make sense as a modern business, and I don't even know how needed it is, because there's so many ski areas around there. I'm not trying to be dismissive. I'm not trying to say it didn't matter to people. But I think that he's ended up selling it and to developers who are going to make it into housing, because running a ski area is very hard. It just seemed like the life cycle of that place was gone. If we look at Herman, 256 vertical feet, you have Sugarloaf, Sunday River, Saddleback, modern operations, Pleasant, finally modernized. What is the appropriate place for Herman Mountain? How does Herman Mountain justify its existence with its customers enough to continue to exist in 2026 and beyond? What does it need to become, do you think?
Okay, so just like Ski Ward in the shadow of mighty Mount Watchussett here in central Massachusetts, we call it Mount Watchussett the Chamonix of central Massachusetts, by the way. Yeah, and the ward is a feeder to mid-sized small mountains like Watchussett. So that's what Herman should be. So Herman is where your kids ski free, usually under 6. It's where you put on skis, where high school kids are ski instructors, and then they go to the next bigger area, whatever. It could be Black Mountain of Maine, could be Pleasant, whatever. And then they go to the next bigger. It's like a stepladder. They go to the big resorts out west, the big resorts in the east. So feeder areas help onboard people into the sport, and they're an economic driver in their community. So I am sad when a ski area closes, and I don't think it's good for anyone. I mean, except for housing developers, really. But but you do have to keep relevant, And like Ward has Ski Ward has armies of high school instructors. Like you can't even move in that place; it's so packed, and they have 250 vertical feet. So, but they're also urban adjacent. Even to call Bangor a urban area would be a bit of an overstatement, having gone to college in Maine.
Look, I value feeder ski areas. My son's in a seasonal program at Mount Peter, which is a 200 vertical foot ski area right here outside of New York City. And they are very good at being a feeder area. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. So if you look at, for example, Lost Valley in Maine, which has similar statistics to Herman Mountain, it's a couple hundred vertical feet, but they've done a much better job, in my opinion, of keeping the place modern, making a consistent operating schedule, enhancing the snowmaking. They put in their third chairlift, even though it was a 50-year-old chairlift from Mount Southington, they still put in their third chairlift a few years ago. So I think they need to become more like Lost Valley. And I don't think it's enough anymore to just be there and to be cute and quaint.
I think you're totally on the mark there. Those are precisely all the things that Eric Mogensen did at Black, once again, and all the things the longtime previous ownership didn't do. No snowmaking investment, minimal lift maintenance, minimum customer amenities, pretty good terrain, a lot more than 250 feet vertical. But yeah, these little ski areas. I mean, Tenney opens and closes, Granite Gorge opens and closes. It's funny, like out in the Berkshires, you have many all lost ski areas that now have been transformed into backcountry meccas. So there's that life that awaits some of these small closed ski areas too, because you just thin out some of the trees and you have the pitch and you can follow the old lift lines, and it's great.
What are some of the ones in the Berkshires? We've not talked about that somehow before.
Well, there's Berkshire Snow Bowl, which is in Cummington, and it used to be a ski area. And the Western Mass Backcountry Alliance worked together with the state, not at odds, but together with the state with permits to clear and make that place skiable again for human-powered skiing, not lift serve, as you cover mostly. And then the one in Lee, Mass, which is in Beartown State Forest. It was a ski area there, and it got like 800 vertical, and it's great. And the Andy Mathey and the Western Mass Backcountry Ski Alliance has phenomenal trail clearing work, and with all the right permits and all the right coalitions. So, that's a little mini trend.
Quick break here to tell you, if you run a ski area or outdoor brand, you should consider hooking up with my friends at Bonfire Collective. Bonfire Collective is a fractional marketing team that collaborates specifically with ski areas and outdoor brands. They will give your marketing a fresh perspective and better storytelling to supercharge your rebranding or advertising. Bonfire can help you rethink your approach in ways that can turbocharge your business. For example, they took on the marketing at one New Hampshire ski area and doubled revenue in just 3 years. And I am speaking from firsthand experience here. When the storm was ready to invest in our first ever digital marketing campaign in 2024, I worked with Bonfire to make it happen, and I brought them back for a second round this winter because I was so satisfied with the results. I love working with them because they do great work and because they are great people who are genuinely pleasant to be around. If you want to get started with Bonfire Collective, you can start that process by talking to Eric over at Bonfire Collective. Eric was a co-founder of Bluebird Backcountry Colorado, the first human-powered ski area. He knows the ski business, as many of my listeners realize, because Eric came on the podcast last year and told that story. Visit bonfirecollective.com to connect with Eric, or I will be happy to make that connection for you. Back to it. So lots of new owners and lots of shuffling in New England over the past year or so, and not really in the direction that we had expected. All of a sudden, last August, and we talked about this on our pod last year, so we don't have to revisit the whole thing, but Killington spun off from Powder and took Pico with it, and they seem to be doing great, and we can talk about them in a minute. More recently, Pacific Group Resorts, which just a couple of years ago bought Jay, and we thought, oh, they're really making a presence in the Northeast. They spun off Ragged to an independent group. That's the little newer piece of news. So let's start with Ragged Mountain, New Hampshire. Really nice 1,100 footer, not too far off 93, a 6-pack and a high-speed quad. So this really great lift fleet, some really great glades. It really worked well with Jay, I thought. But your reaction to Ragged spinning off and thoughts on the new ownership group?
I don't know. This is all part of the deconsolidation. I think it's a phrase that you coined in this ski area, and you're not ready to call it a full-on trend, but it's like a mini trend. I think any local ownership is good, and this group at Ragged are longtime skiers and families from Ragged. But, skied at Ragged, but there's a huge risk involved in running a ski area. I'm not sure if they're deep pocket. I'm worried they're not deep pocketed enough to get through the bad seasons, to buy new chairlifts, to buy, advanced snowmaking, it costs a lot of money. So, but PGR knows what it's doing. And I feel like they vetted these people and they feel it's in good hands. So I was a little surprised at PGR, but it got rid of, offloaded Ragged. But the thing is, PGR shepherded it into the modern era. All the systems are working, so they did their job. Ragged is no longer undiscovered. for better or for worse. It used to be one of the few undiscovered decent plus 1,000 foot vertical ski areas in New England, no longer. But I'd love to see the independently owned mountains. I mean, Killington to be independent is mind blowing. Saddleback to be independent is fantastic. Burke to be independent is amazing. Watchussett has always been a leading independent mountain, and so has Berkshire East and Catamount. So independent works. I call it enlightened rich guy ownership. It worked at Sugarbush in the past. It worked at Jackson Hole. It's worked at Jackson Hole for decades. So you have to have enlightened, really rich guy ownership, or woman.
So let me tell you what concerns me about the ragged ownership structure that I think needs to be present if this is going to work. So the enlightened rich guy ownership model has worked in a lot of cases. And at Sugarbush, it was Win Smith who was the principal. Right now, we're seeing it work from everything, from all accounts, at Killington with Phil Gross as the principal. Now, what's lost often is Win was part of an ownership group. Phil is part of an ownership group. Ragged is part of an ownership group. And I was talking to the guys and I wrote about this. There's 6 of them. They're equal partners. They don't seem to have a hierarchy in place of leadership. They all, as was described to me, get a vote. That sounds really chummy and cool and fun and maybe a great way to run a frat house or something. I don't know if that's going to work for Ragged. I think someone needs to be in charge. And they did keep Eric Barnes, longtime GM, who was at Mount Snow for a million years before that. And that's smart. But Eric is not the owner, and he can only make sure that things run with the resources that he have. Am I overthinking this? Does that concern you?
It does concern me, and I agree with you. Take a look at Magic Mountain in southern Vermont, for example. Similar ownership group, similar stakes, but they put one guy in charge, Geoff Hathaway. Mm-hmm. And he is the Captain Ahab of Magic Mountain. Mm-hmm. He forges forward, whether it's disaster or a success. He makes that thing move forward with minimal debt. Mm-hmm. And you don't have to worry about a consensus vote on every little decision. I mean, that's why a lot of nonprofits flounder. And like my old tennis club, the historic Worcester Tennis Club, we was run by a nonprofit board, of course, and we had no chief executive to make decisions. So eventually ended up closing and merging with another tennis club. But a lot of problem leadership with those kind of groups. I mean, Ragged's not a nonprofit, but it's same dynamics at play. How do you get consent? Who's the consensus? Who's the CEO? Who's the executive decision? And Eric Barnes can, like you say, can only do so much. At Magic Mountain, Geoff Hathaway, who's part of an ownership group, he makes all the decisions, whether people like them or not. And I feel he's made a lot of great decisions and had a few major setbacks. And Magic is doing better than ever.
Let's stay on the example of Geoff Hathaway for a minute, because I think the way he handled the black chairlift debacle was very instructive of how things can go wrong and the sort of grit and resilience and clarity you need to fix it. Because that lift they bought, for the listeners, they bought it from Stratton. It was a good used quad. Stratton was replacing it with a high-speed quad from their Snow Bowl side. And Geoff bought it, and it ended up taking, I think, 4 years to get that lift up, and quite a bit more money. And I asked him at one point, do you wish you would have just bought a new lift? And he's like, we could have. Mm-hmm. And not gone through all this hassle. So what did you see out of Geoff in that particular instance that demonstrates what these sorts of groups need to run a very rambunctious little ski area that's not going to cooperate with you when it comes to weather or anything else?
Well, I feel like Geoff, maybe I'm sugarcoating it, but I think he owned the failure of the Snow Bowl lift transfer over to Magic. There was a lot of things that went wrong. And I feel like he updated everybody on it, and I would interview him every year, I think as you would, every other year or whatever, and he would say, oh, yeah, he was ready for it. He didn't resent the questioning, he just kind of owned it. And so people... That went a long way, and now that it's up, I think people forget that it wasn't up. So we got there, and they have other ways of getting to the summit. And by the way, he calls it, by the way, a low speed chairlift. We've heard of high speed chairlifts, So that's pretty disarming of him to do that. And so Ragged, though, Ragged has such great urban proximity, a dedicated skier base, good lift infrastructure, systems in place, good management. I think they'll make it. And I think this group will realize they got to deputize somebody to be the number one.
Yeah, I hope so. And I don't mean to speak ill of the guys. They sound like great guys, and I had a great chat with them. And I don't doubt their passion. And they're all come from, a lot of them, at least the professional world and the corporate world. And I think that they will get it right. I hope. Ragged is interesting to me, Shaun. It was one of those dicey ski areas. It didn't look like it was going to make it. And like Magic, which was closed for about 5 years in the 90s, Ragged was closed for about 5 years in the 80s. If you fast forward to now, the ski area in a weird way benefited from being so far behind, because since they didn't install snowmaking until the late 80s, and since they didn't update their lifts until the 2000s, they now have pretty new stuff. So as a place like Sunday River, which was an early adopter, started to really wear out noticeably 6-7 years ago before they made a lot of updates in snowmaking and lifts, Ragged really updated. As you said, PGR just pumped money into it. And I believe that's the only new lift they ever bought was there. So what could go wrong at Ragged? What's the worst case scenario?
A lift ages out and they don't want to borrow $50 million to build a new one. Mm-hmm. Number one, a really horrendous snow year. Their revenues are down. They're not part of a multi-pass system. I think they're grandfathered on PGR for one more year, maybe with Jay, or something like that. But they don't have, like Watchussett has this. They did the mega pass before Icon and Epic did, right? Mm-hmm. Watchussett was selling its gold, silver, and bronze passes before the season started at different levels of discount. We're able to come into the season with a lot of money to get them through slow years. And I don't think Ragged has that cushion. So they might want to consider, doing something with a multi-pass. I mean, they're on Indy, right? Or
they are on Indy, and they told me that they want to keep the reciprocity with Jay.
Yeah,
which I think is perfect, because the Ragged terrain at its best, when they do have snow, which is not that often, their glades are really good, and it's skis like a little J, and it has that same sort of spirit and proximity to people. So I guess J has no proximity to anyone, but it skis similarly. I think they'd match really well because of where Ragged is in relation to J.
The only proximity Jay has is to the J Cloud, and to Canada. So I was skiing in Quebec a few years ago, and going back this year, I hope. And you could see Jay from Owl's Head, and great ski area on the in Canada. You can see Jay. You can almost reach out and touch it. You can see it right there. So I don't know, Ragged. It's going to be. I think they'll be good for a couple of years. There's a lot of excitement now with them in local ownership. Everybody loved PGR, still owns, but I think PGR is going to make a splashy move somewhere.
Yeah,
I just feel it. I don't know where. It could be in Quebec, could be another one out west, but they don't have a property in Quebec. They have one in Western Canada.
Did they buy Smugs?
I would like that. I would really like that, because I'm glad you brought up Smugs, because Smugs, I'm putting that on the endangered list.
Really?
Okay? Yeah, because the same family has owned it. The other, no deep-pocketed new money coming in. Eventually, the slow doubles, I forget the brand. I think you like those. The Halls. Eventually, they are going to age out. I mean, and also, a lot of people who love Smugs love to drink the Kool-Aid instead. They love the long, slow lift because it keeps the slopes from being uncrowded, and they get to rest because, as you know, Smugs has amazing, long, tough terrain. Mm-hmm. But I don't buy that. I want to ski as much as possible. A high-speed quad never killed anybody's ski day. Mm-hmm. So Smugs needs one or two high-speed lifts. And I don't see that happening in its current situation. So to have PGR coming in, that would be the best of all possible worlds. I mean, it's not like they're flashy like Icon and Epic. They go slow. They haven't done any huge moves at J yet. But they're rational, they're transparent, and they're pretty democratic in the way they let their areas operate as they do. So that would be a great owner. Let's talk to PGR and see if they get it going.
Well, the PGR has been less aggressive with lift updates. They put in the new one at Ragged, but it's really the only lift they've put in at any of their properties. The new high speed that they put in at Powderhorn, actually that might have been before they even got there, was a used lift. And the high speed update they're doing at Powderhorn next year is also going to be a used lift from Snowmass. What about Vail, Shaun? Because they own Stowe right over, they connect them, make a huge ski resort.
Yeah, I was tracking that for a few years. I mean, it seemed like some kind of rapprochement between Vail and Smugs was going to happen when the Smugs owner wanted to put a gondola from back and forth between the Smugs and Spruce Peak at Stowe because they're so close to each other. I don't know if Vail would want to create a megaplex ski area up there. It's a little hard to get to Smugs, and that's not the Vail model because they closed the Notch at the Smugglers Notch, the road. So you have to go all the way around to get to Smugs. So I don't know if Vail Resorts, which is predicated on an easy access model, would like that. Yeah. Would they love the terrain? Would they be able to upgrade a couple of lifts pretty soon? Yes. And contrary to popular belief, Vail does not destroy the culture of most of the ski areas it owns. It really doesn't. It's not as decentralized as Icon in that respect, but it doesn't change the topography of the ski area. It improves the snow, and plus I think Vail is learning a little bit that the value of local management. There's been a little less churn than lately in the East with them. So I would welcome, this might be controversial, people will hate me, but I would like it if Vail Resorts would buy Smugs. Day ticket prices would shoot up. But Epic, buy an Epic Pass, save up, just like you buy a plane ticket ahead of time, buy your Epic Pass ahead of time. But that's an interesting thought, though. Something's going to give at Smugs eventually.
I wonder how much that road closure is just the state doesn't want to maintain it in winter. Because you got to think with enough money, you could do anything, right? So is there some sort of easement or something? Is there a reason?
Pretty dangerous. No, it's pretty dangerous. It's surrounded by these steep walls that basically slide like rocks and snow. And I think it's pretty dangerous. You'd have to do a hell of a lot of engineering to keep that open. I mean, I know they've done it in Franconia Notch, obviously, in New Hampshire. There's a superhighway runs through it. But up in Stowe, skinners love to ski up the road and train there. It's also the finishing point for a lot of the Stowe backcountry that comes around there. But I don't know. I've not heard. I mean, as you've noted, I think Vail's buying ambitions are overseas. For now, maybe it'll swing back, but it's been buying and making deals in Europe and Japan and everywhere, but the States.
What's your assessment of the new owners of Killington with a full season to process it?
Okay, well, I was talking with the Killington people at the Boston Ski Show, the Snowbound Expo. That's a whole nother story. So far, there's very little to criticize what's going on in Killington. I don't see it. I just don't see it. I mean, the only thing I can think the dark cloud could be, it's a honeymoon. It's still a honeymoon period, right? They've yet to confront a really disastrous weather season. Last year was a pretty good year overall, right? And there's a lot of goodwill. I mean, it kept virtually the whole management team, Mike Solomano, everybody, marketing people, the mountain ops people, lift ops people, same people. And the two owners are uber wealthy, and two main owners, and you have this great new village growing. And I don't see any huge snags. Maybe I'm being a Pollyanna, but I mean, maybe do they run out of money? Do they have to dig way too deep into their enlightened rich guy ownership pockets? I don't know, because they say they don't care. They don't want to make money. They just want to, I guess it is implied break even, but I don't think they just want to break even. either. They're keeping Icon, which is on the pass level, that the tier that they're on, which is smart, I think, because there's plenty of room to spread out at Killington. People complain because they go to the K1 and they see how busy it is. Get to K1, well, just move sideways anywhere around the mountain. There's no lift lines whatsoever. So they did a great job with resuscitating the Skyship gondola. Phenomenal. That's an iconic lift. Unlike Cannon, which is the tram disappeared into oblivion, probably never to return. So I don't know. I just see great things for Killington.
So they are a really interesting tidbit that came out of my conversation with Phil Gross and Mike Salamano. So Phil Gross is the managing partner, and Mike Salamano has been on my pod a bunch of times as the president. And Phil said that they are reinvesting everything into the ski area, all of the profits. And really that model is more like Bogus Basin, which is a nonprofit ski area in Idaho and has fully modernized because they reinvest everything into the mountain. Their first, I want to say first big investment, but most prominent investment is to replace the Superstar lift, the old, janky, hammered together Mad Max Yan quad that they had to retrofit into a Doppelmayr so it wouldn't kill people like it did in Sierra Tahoe and Keystone and Whistler. Oops. They replaced that finally with a brand new six-pack. Now, here's something interesting that Phil and Mike told me. Since it has fewer chairs, it doesn't really increase capacity. It's just nicer and it's more modern. That's expensive. That's an expensive way to wallpaper your room. Shaun, what do you think about that?
Well, it's funny because that same argument, the Crowleys use that at Watchussett.
Okay.
The same capacity pretty much overall. The improvements are mostly in comfort and convenience and reliability. Okay. So there is a reliability issue. Okay. That's going to improve 1,000-fold, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. So the reason I think it's worth it to put up the new lift there, because that's an iconic ski trail in New England. Unique because of the World Cup races that are on there now, and because that's the showpiece for the Killington Glacier, the late season skiing that lasts every year up until June. I've ridden that lift at least 100 times. It was about time for a new lift. It had so many miles on it, even without night skiing. And it can't overcrowd. I mean, you could pack 2 armies onto the Superstar. It's so wide, and in fact, if you ski there in May, it's like Grand Central Station on Superstar. So, I mean, but you can also spread out from the top. And I don't know, you see it from the lift. It's the only chair you can see. From the K1 Lodge, the main lodge. So it's the only chairlift you can see from the lodge. And it's eye candy, too. People see it from the lodge. It stokes excitement. And it is comfortable and it is reliable. And so, you gotta spend money to make money.
Yeah. Have you ever skied at Loveland?
Oh yeah.
So I was talking to the Loveland folks. I was out there in May, and everyone listening to this has driven right past Loveland because it covers the Eisenhower Tunnel. Because you're driving up from the Denver airport and you go to Summit County or Eagle County, you're passing right by Loveland and probably not skiing there. But they put in their first detachable lift, 5-6 years ago. And it's actually one of their shorter lifts on the mountain. And I was asking their GM, why did you make that a high-speed lift when you have these lifts that are twice as long all over the mountain? And he said, because I told the owners, and he's been in Loveland for a long time, that it's really important that people could see a high-speed lift from the interstate. Because if they're driving by us already, they're going to keep driving by us if they think we're this old, pokey ski area. But if they see that high-speed lift, they're going to change their mind about what Loveland is, and they might give us a try. And Loveland seems to be doing pretty well in the Mega Pass era. But I wonder if something similar is at play at Killington.
Maybe. I mean, I remember seeing those old pokey lifts crawl up Loveland and say, oh, God. But when you get into the place, it's such a big, expansive area with bowls and everything.
Yeah.
And, so I think they joined Indy last year, too, right?
Yeah, they did.
So, they one of Indy's biggest resorts. But I don't know if that was at play in the show. I mean, Superstar we have to look on the lift blog lift database. Like, when was it built? 93, 92?
It was an 80s lift.
80s. All right. Well,
yeah.
It's kind of time, it's reliability and safety. And it is a relatively short lift though for Killington. And I'm super excited to see it.
The old Superstar was built in 1987.
Speaking of another old high-speed lift, Jiminy Peak.
Yeah.
Its six-pack was built in 2000, and Watchussett was built in 2025. So which one is going to run better and be more reliable? And I know because Watchussett, it's only Massachusetts' second six-pack, but Jiminy built it in a different era. So as a skier, I'm never going to turn down new lifts.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the same era, by the way, as that Ragged six-pack, which I think went in 2001. So let's talk about another ownership change here, John. A fellow that you and I are both very familiar with, John Schaefer, who has run the Berkshire East ski area for a long, long time. His father came and bought it in the 1970s, came over from Michigan. In 2018, Schaefer and his brother purchased Catamount, which was a really rundown ski area on the border of Massachusetts and New York, really fixed up and modernized that with snowmaking and lifts. Now there's an investment group that is really the buyer, but Schaefer will be the operator of Burke Mountain, New York. Burke famously was tied up in the J Peak EB5 scandal. Ariel Kuros, who questionably renamed the resort Q Burke at one point, and did build a giant new hotel there, which is there. They got this ski area for like $12 million, which everyone I talked to was like, what? How did they do that? Because the lift alone says 2 high-speed quads would be that much. Anyway, the Schaefers, very experienced operators. John Schaefer in particular, I think, knows what he's doing. They are now operating 3 ski areas, Berkshire East, Catamount, and Burke. This is their first season in Burke. What do you want to see them do at Burke, and what do you think the potential is up there?
I'm talking to John actually next week for a column about this. And I know John pretty well from my years of skiing at Berkshire East. And my son trained ski racing there for 6 years. So I was always there. I have super high hopes for Burke and super a lot of faith that John Schaefer can make a lot of great things happen. Again, I'm worried about a little bit. Well, first of all, what would I like to see there? Stuff they already did. Snowmaking, job number 1. And John knows that. They fixed it amazingly over the summer.
Tripled, right?
Yeah. And did they open this past weekend? But
I don't think so.
Proof will be, how the snowpack holds up. But snowmaking, job number 1. That's the first thing skiers and snowboarders care about is snow. In my opinion, terrain and snow. So that's really smart. Some of the lifts are really shaky in terms of reliability. I haven't skied Burke for about 10 years, but there's a lot of Central Mass people. There's a little colony up there, second homeowners, and it's a real, all right. So not good. The hotel was falling into disrepair after so many years of disuse, and they were losing money over there. And the worst thing about it being called Q Burke was it went down to the bottom of the marketing alphabetical list.
Right.
It went to the bottom of every list in the business. So they got rid of that exercise in hubris by Ariel Kuros. But all right, so that. So the biggest problem Burke faces is that while it's a little easier to get to than Jay, a little closer to the highway, a little bit more south, there's nothing around it. There's only that hotel. There's hardly any lodging infrastructure whatsoever up there. So how are they going to make a lot of money in the future? Maybe they can build a village there or some kind of other infrastructure, and I'm sure that's in their long-range plan. So they need maybe 1 new lift. They need to really refurbish 2 or 3 other lifts. So I don't know. I mean, one thing John Schaefer brings to the table, though, is an amazing understanding of economies of scale and ski area operations. And so he's got a lot of his lift techs on the circuit between Catamount and Berkshire East, and he also got Hermitage Club back up and running a few years ago. So experience running a bigger mountain, closer to the size of Burke, and he also got Bosquet up and running when they changed ownership and they built a new lift. So I mean, John knows how to efficiently use resources. So one thing is they're not going to overspend at Burke and get drained that way. So that's really good. John knows how to husband scarce resources really, really well.
Yeah, his dad did a really good job. He was one of these old hats who would go around the country and collect old snow guns and lifts and put them in. And he did that for a long, long time before John started putting new lifts up. Only at Berkshire East, all of Catamounts were used. What do you think the opportunity is, Shaun, to make Burke the capstone of a regional multi-mountain pass? Because you have Berkshire East, you have Catamount. I think that Mount Snow, Okemo, Killington, Sugarbush, they're all very busy. They're all part of Icon or Epic. I think Burke is a really compelling alternative that most people just don't think about because it's kind of on the wrong side of Vermont. It's not on the spine. It's a little bit weird where it is on the map. But it seems like the Berkshire East season pass holder, which I know is a hardcore skier, and the Catamount season pass holder, which may be coming up from New York City and may not know any better, I think might be interested if you put Burke on that pass in throwing some business up there by virtue of already having access to it in the same way that Epic has been able to do that so successfully with their hub and spoke model. What do you think?
I would bet money that John's thinking about this right now, John Schaefer, because why wouldn't you want to put it on some kind of multi-pass? Because Berkshire East already has a bit of a mini multi-pass with Catamount and Berkshire East, and also Busquet. Is Busquet on it too? Yeah. So my claim to fame is I skied all three of those in one day, and John told me I was the first one to do it. Yeah. But based on purely scientific evidence. But putting Burke on it, and then who else would join that multi-pass?
Smugs.
Yeah.
You could get.
I don't know.
The Jiminy folks don't seem to really like that sort of cooperative alliance.
No. Jiminy has its own thing, right? Jiminy, Cranmore, Bromley. Do they have a multi-pass?
No.
No.
They don't.
They're the same ownership group, although they operate. Bromley don't own it. That's a great idea. I mean, I'm pretty sure that Berkshire East people will flood it to Burke this year. Yeah. I mean, it worked with Ragged and Jay pretty well, and the Berkshire East people, and it's, it's already it's more of a straight line for the Berkshire East people too to go straight up, than the Boston people. So. The problem with Berkshire East, though, to anchor the multi-pass, they don't have the huge population center. They have Greenfield, Mass. Watchussett has Boston and Worcester, huge metropolitan area, right? So what's the population base that's going to sustain that multi-pass?
I think it comes from Catamount, because Catamount is only 2 hours from New York City. It's actually closer, because I've done all these drives many times. It's actually closer than the Catskills resorts. So it's closer than Hunter and Bel Air and Wyndham, and has not quite the vertical, but it has 1,000, and the parking is right there, and they're really selling a nice product these days. So I think it probably is a New York City crowd that gets pushed up, but to your point, they need somewhere to stay when they get.
Good point, though. I mean, the Catamount is a good anchor for that, and I've been to Catamount since the Schaefers bought it, and the transformation of that place has been so dramatic in such a short period of time, because the Schaefers are the kind of people who act first and ask forgiveness later. And it's great for skiers and snowboarders.
Absolutely.
Slap up new trails and new lifts, replacement lifts, boom, 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 new lodge, boom, 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 get it done. If John needs to, he just does the work himself. He gets out there with the carpenters and just built. That's how they built a new bar, mini lodge at Berkshire East. He and a carpenter who used to be the head ski team coach just built it. He said, "We're not hiring a contractor. We're just going to work all summer and build this thing."
That's amazing. That's how they used to do things. When I interviewed Travis Seeholzer, the third generation owner of Beaver Mountain, Utah, his grandpa started it in the 30s. And back then, his grandpa just got his buddies together. They built a lodge and multiple lifts in a parking lot in one summer at the top of a canyon. It's just the kind of stuff that is hard to do anymore given modern codes and regulations.
Well, Jiminy built that way, Jiminy, they put up the solar, they put up the wind turbine and somehow dragged it up there and built Jiminy like that. That's the New England spirit, the work ethic.
Yeah. Are you at all worried about that waning? I asked this question of this fellow Ron Smallsley who put together Ski Big Bear, and him and his brother basically assembled it. It's a Pennsylvania ski area. And they've Frankensteined this thing together with equipment from all over the place, lifts and snowmaking. They came from that generation. You know, they're probably in their 70s. And the individual used to be expected to be able to do more. And we've kind of worked to we've moved to more of a specialized economy, it seems like, where fewer people do know how to work on their cars or fix something in their home. And I'm not pointing fingers. I'm not great at these things either. But do you worry about, as you have gotten to know so many ski area operators, how important is that been to the survival of the ski areas in New England that have made it?
All right, that's a really interesting point. I haven't thought about that, but now thinking about it, first of all, I think that the work ethic is still in the DNA of this region.
Yeah.
All right, and also what we've lost in institutional knowledge and experience and skills, we've gained in technology. And Eric Bogenson of Enterbeni and Indy and Black Mountain is a perfect example, man. He knows data. Mm-hmm. He puts data to work. That's how the Indy Pass happened. It's built on a foundation of data. And so maybe this is my day job leaking into my ski riding part-time job, but I feel like the Watchussett invested in data years ago. They know how many people are skiing when and who they are and what demographic they are and who they need to market to. And so I think that makes up for it somewhat. And you also have new generations coming in, a lot of these ski area ownership families, the independent ones. So they combine the new data with their parents and their grandparents' work ethic. And that's happening at Watchussett. I hate to keep coming back to Watchussett, but it is the Chamonix of Central Mass.
I mean, that's a good optimistic take on it. I tend toward optimism myself. Let's talk about Watchussett, the new 6-pack. Sounds like you're all for it, but we'll lay out your thoughts on the Watchussett 6-pack.
I have been all for it, and I'm putting my neck on the line because I've been sort of saying I'm for it for the last 2 or 3 years. If it turns out to be a disaster and does overload the slopes, I'm screwed. Mm. But I don't think it will. I was up there last week, Thursday, and you get a little tour from the young guy, 26-year-old Alex Arcangeli, who is the mastermind of this project. He and Geoff Crowley. He's the mountain ops manager at Watchussett, and working around the clock since April to build this thing. It is awe-inspiring. I mean, the footprint of it. The one thing that startles the eye to the visitor to Watchussett, whether you're a longtime skier or a visitor, is the new chair barn. This huge structure to hold these 6-passenger chairlifts, right? So they put the superstructure up, which is all these steel. It looks like a farm barn on steroids. I mean, it's 25 feet tall. It's massive. Uh-huh. But it's not like the loading terminal at the Kank 8 in Loon is a massive building too, but it's got kind of glass walls, right? This has no walls. Mm-hmm. So you can see through the structure to the other lifts. And they're thinking of maybe doing plastic or glass that you can roll up eventually. But right now it's just open, and it's a massive, it's big. I think it's taller than the base lodge itself.
Oh, wow. So
it just looks, but it's not ugly though. It's just big. It's got nice lines, right? Right. So, but it's great though, because icing has been a long time problem at Watchussett on the summit lift, right? Okay, and wind not so much, quite sheltered. But icing is a huge problem. I mean, it shuts down the lift on some bluebird morning when it happened to be icy overnight and causes near riots at Watchussett. Right. I mean, can you imagine 4,000 angry Bostonians running amok? That happens. And so that's not going to happen anymore. Right. And so all right. So the lift is a 6-pack. A lot of dissension of the ranks. The Watchussett regulars, like any successful small community area, they think they own the place, not the owners. Mm-hmm. And in a way, they do because they've skied there perhaps even before the Crowleys bought it and revived it and made it into a phenomenon. But it's it's the same line going up the mountain, but the towers are bigger. The chair carriers are much bigger. The loading area is bigger. The gantry is bigger to go through. The seats are like individually sized and with thick cushions, and it's got an automatic safety locking bar, which I'm all for. I think it's a big deal. Like I think all new high-speed lifts have them. It's not unique at all, but it's great for Watchussett. I mean, not to bring up bad news, but we've had chairlift incidents at Watchussett, people falling off chairlifts, whether it's their own fault or somebody else's. It's happened. It's a high volume, much less likely it's going to happen now. Safety bar use is the law in Massachusetts, as it is in Vermont and Connecticut, I believe. So now whether it will overload the slopes, I don't think so. You have just enough surface area at Watchussett, and also it's not busy all the time at Watchussett. It's just weekend afternoons and evenings and weekday late afternoons and early evenings. That's it. The rest of the time you can lap that place to your heart's content, and now you can sprawl out on the lift if you're alone or just with a friend. It's going to be comfortable. It's not going to break down. It's going to last well into the next decades when the current ownership is retired. So all in all, it has added a lot of marketing buzz to Watchussett. And over the summer and spring and fall, there's been a really funny and compelling video reporting and promotion of this thing with Chris Stimson, the marketing PR chief, did these funny videos called Clueless Construction Updates. So it was poking fun at the self-importance of ski areas. And yet you had sober-minded reporting from Alex, who is actually running the lift installation. And he gave the straight man report every week. So the public knows what's coming. The Crowleys did a good job of educating people about this lift. And I'm super psyched to get on it in February.
So a couple more check marks there, Shaun, and we've talked a lot about the evolution of New England's once rusty lift infrastructure over the past 5 to 10 years. And there's been some really good upgrades and 2 more great upgrades this year at Killington and Watchussett. You mentioned the Cannon tram. We also have Whaleback, unlikely to be able to open its summit lift. Tenney lost a good part of last season because its 1960s era double chair conked out near the end of the season. Looking elsewhere in New England, where are we still falling short as you look at some of these other mountains?
All right. Well, before I answered that one, there are a couple other new lifts. Bretton Woods got a big new high-speed quad this year. And I think there's a few others around. Okay, so where are we falling short? Well, Sugarbush.
Well, if you want to talk about the new ones first. So Butternut is putting in a new lift. They're replacing Jane's with the quad. Yeah, that's a brand new lift. Pat's Peak is putting in a used fixed lift to replace triple Hurricane. Waterville Valley is putting in a new T-bar that's replacing 2 other surface lifts. And Titcomb is putting in a new T-bar. So any of those you want to talk about?
And also Bretton Woods, it has its flagship quad has been replaced, and replacing one high-speed quad with another. So who's still in trouble? All right, so Cannon Mountain lost its iconic tram. It's shut down, decommissioned, it's over. There used to be a lot of plans to replace it. I talked to the general manager at the end of last season, Jace Worth, who's a great young new general manager. He's done a lot of other upgrades at Cannon this year in the base lodge, beginner area, stuff like that. But Cannon is like cutting off, part of its arm by shutting down the tram, especially in the summer season. But forget about the summer season. You no longer have, you're not going to be able to ski the Glades up there. The Kinsman, Kinsman's Glade and DJ's tram line. It's going to be tough to get back to Cannon proper. If you look on the trail map, it'll be impossible for Kinsman Glade. You'll have to walk.
You said earlier, Shaun, that it was probably never to return. What's that based on? What makes you think that they will not build another tram?
Well, I mean, that's maybe a little of an overstatement, but okay, you're dealing with the state bureaucracy and you're dealing with state lawmakers. So there was a plan by former governor to to whose family, the Sununus, former Chris Sununu, former governor, and they own Waterville Valley, his family, but to replace the tram with a larger gondola. And they got shot down because even though it was cheaper, wasn't as iconic. So the way Jace explained it to me, there's just so many moving parts involved with insurance companies, with bonds they have to float, with votes in the legislature. So if it does come back, it's going to be a while. It's going to be on the order of 3 to 5 years.
Wow. Should the state just lease it out like they do with Sunapee, which is operated by Vail?
Well, I don't think so, because Canada's on a really good management right now. It's been years since they were a dysfunctional state-owned facility. Now they're a highly functional state-owned facility. Yeah. They have a top-notch dynamic general manager. They pumped a lot of money into it, not in the order of New York State, which treats its state-owned ski areas like the crown jewels, which I love as a skier. Maybe not as a New York State taxpayer, but and Canada's in really good shape management wise, and they have some lift upgrades to do. They did upgrade the much needed the base lodge areas this year. So I don't think it's on the table to lease it. I really don't. I guess they could, but I don't even think that's been proposed seriously.
So there was some controversy around, or some debate around, whether maybe to replace it with a gondola. And I went into it pro gondola. As I read on it, though, and I read JD, the old general manager's arguments for the tram, I came over to the team tram side. My mind was changed. It is this iconic piece of Canon. It's a nice 2,000 vertical foot lift, and gondola doesn't quite carry the same swagger. It would probably be a little less expensive. Where do you come down on lift type? Does it need to be a tram if there's going to be a lift there, in your opinion?
Yes. The same thing happened to me. At first, I was enticed by the lower cost and the more, the low profile of the gondola. But just to see that thing in the summer and the winter, it's a signature piece of New England skiing. It's fun to ride in it. It's amazing. It builds community when you're standing, cheek by jowl, other skiers. It's just fun. It gives you a little taste of Europe or the West. I don't know. And for the, we got to have a tram back there, and we got to get Jade Peak's tram working properly and reliably as well while we're at it.
Yeah, Steve Wright does not like trams, but they've just put a lot of money into it. So I think that thing is not going anywhere anytime soon. Canon actually was the first tram in North America, from my understanding. So there's a historical piece to that as well. When it was installed in 1938, that original tram was there till 81. And then the next generation, reused some of the towers and such and stood until this year. I think it's still standing, but not running. What do you make of a place like Whaleback? Shaun, Whaleback is really interesting because there are so many good ski areas in New England, and Whaleback is just this little place that's kind of hung on and faded in and out. This lift has been very problematic. It's a nonprofit that can't seem to find a sustainable business model. What do you think about Whaleback? I mean, is it time to just say, all right, maybe we don't need this additional ski area, or have they just not figured out the right model yet?
Really good question. I mean, huge thing it has going in its favor is you see it from the interstate. Okay, so it's highly visible. It's easy to get to, for a northern Vermont ski area.
Yeah.
And it's got good terrain. So I don't know. I think it would be kind of tragic to lose Whaleback because it's got such good terrain, and it's a good low cost training area for college ski racing, for freestyle, for park. I don't know what the answer is. If it was closed, it would be a scar on the landscape because it's so visible from the highway. I don't know. Maybe Vail will buy it. No, just kidding. But it's tough. That's one of these ones that's really been teetering, All
right, so let's finish up on two topics. I want to ask you about Snowbound first, and then I want to actually talk a little bit of gear. So give me your thoughts on Snowbound. You got some news around Snowbound that I was not aware of. So what's going on there, and what are your thoughts on it?
Okay, so Raccoon Productions, is that the name? Raccoon Productions?
Like mm-hmm.
All right, so it's a UK-based media promotion company that bought the show from a longtime owner a couple of years ago. And the Boston Ski Show is one of the biggest in the country, if not the biggest, right? Seattle and New York are the only ones that compare, really.
I don't even think we have one in New York, do we?
Okay, so it was when I was growing up.
Maybe in Jersey they do? Or maybe I just somehow don't know about it.
No, I don't think I think they stopped it. But okay. The Boston one is well attended. It's still well attended. But now this British company, now forgive me if I'm mistaken, but they don't have a great ski industry in Great Britain. There's some ski areas in Scotland. And yes, the Brits love to go across the channel and ski in Europe. And I've skied in Europe when squadrons of barely competent British skiers to come toward you, and you have to seek cover. It's dangerous. They're on holiday. They're liquored up on beer or ale, and they're coming at you. So not a great tradition in Great Britain. So these British owners of Snowbound Expo decided it would be a brilliant idea for next year to move the popular ski show in downtown Boston, or pretty much downtown Boston, to the Mohegan Sun Casino in northeast Connecticut, right? Mm-hmm. That is the most out-of-the-way place in all of Connecticut. One of the most out-of-the-way places in anywhere in southern New England. No one wants to go there except for gamblers and maybe to see a show at the Mohegan Sun. Boston people would rather cut off their right arm than drive to northeast Connecticut. That's who goes to the Boston Ski Show. The vendors don't like it. It's out of the way. The ski areas don't want to go down to southeast Connecticut. I mean, is it okay for the Connecticut ski areas, Southington, Mohawk? Not really. They don't depend on a ski show. Why would anyone move a ski show from one of the most rabid ski towns in the entire country to one of the least ski-oriented places in southern New England? I mean, those people down there don't even go to Watchussett to ski. It's too far. So it's a head scratcher. I think it's going to collapse. That ski show is going to finally collapse. I mean, it's sad.
Yeah, when I went up to the Boston Ski Show, or Snowbound as they're now calling it, from New York, I got on the Acela train at Penn Station, got off in Boston, walked a couple blocks to the convention center, super convenient. I've also been to Mohegan Sun when I worked for the NBA, and you're right, it's in the middle of nowhere. It's this soul-curdling place where you just feel depressed the moment you walk in. The only thing I wanted to do was get out of there. And it was the Connecticut Sun played there, the WNBA team.
Yeah.
And the arena was cool. This was before the WNBA blew up. This was about 15 years ago. And they had a smaller arena, right? So it was maybe 8,000 people. It was perfect for the WNBA in that era. But it does seem like a weird spot for a ski show. So yeah. TBD. All right, last thing I want to talk about, and this is going to be weird for my listeners, I want to talk about gear, and I want to talk about BOA boots, or BOA. And I don't know how you say it because I don't know anything about gear, but this reminds me, Shaun, of when shaped skis debuted in the late 90s. Mm-hmm. And overnight, everything changed. And I felt really behind right away. And I'm not a trend follower. I'm a late adopter. I don't need to have the newest, greatest thing. I want to wait till they work out the kinks and get it. But all of a sudden, these boots seem to be everywhere. So give us a 101. What are BOA boots and what do you think of them?
Okay, I've been following this pretty closely. I own a pair of BOA boots, and I said I never would, but I do now. Mm-hmm. BOA was invented in 2001 by a snowboarder, the BOA technology. It's not really based on the BOA constrictor, although it's based on cables that tighten by means of a knob. Huh? The knob that is now on ski boots, downhill ski boots, and some alpine touring boots, is a new generation of BOA that's much burlier and tougher and doesn't break down nearly as much and easier to manipulate. Hockey skates have had BOA for many years. Snowboarder boots have had it since 2001. All kinds of other equipment like industrial boots. It's a closing system. It's a big knob. You push it down and it tightens. You pop
so
it
it
up.
replaces the buckles that we're all used to.
Replaces the buckles on ski boots, or at least some of the buckles. And also alpine touring boots have had smaller boas for years. Nobody knows what boa stands for. It doesn't really stand for anything. It was just the name of the company that this snowboarder guy invented. Become hugely popular with ice skates, with rollerblade skates, and all kinds of applications. Now, it finally came to ski boots, downhill ski boots a couple of years ago. It was heralded as earth-shaking transformation. It's really not. It's just it's a closure system that is a cousin of the ski buckle, all right? Okay. Shape skis were a fundamental innovation in ski technology, and so was a rocker for skis, reverse camber, to allow them to float in carver, powder, to initiate turns much easily. BOA is, in my view, and most of the boot fitters I've talked to, is I did a big story on boot fitters last year where I talked to 6 top-notch boot fitters in depth. Mm-hmm. And BOA is an evolution. It's a really good way for some people's feet to close boots. It depends a lot on your foot volume and your foot shape. You know, if you have a really skinny foot, like I do, it's hard to cinch the BOA down enough. Maybe a buckle does a good enough job. Now we have BOA creep. It's controversial in the gear business. I love gear, by the way. It's controversial in the gear. Actually, it's funny about gear because when I first met you and I saw your logo and you had your Blizzard skis shooting up, and I ski a Blizzard skis too, and I go, "Oh, Stuart, you have some Blizzards too?" And you go, "I do. I just ski on what they gave me in the shop." No, you ski on Blizzards. I think Rustlers, but
I don't know what kind of boots I have.
All right, that's a good.
I got them fit. You know, it was a whole process, but I don't know what brand they are.
Got them fit. That's pretty cool. I've got like 5 pairs of ski boots, and I got my BOAs at the end of last year, and I used the different boots for different things. But I got the BOAs last year. I bought them from my brother who owns and runs this small ski shop in Vail, downtown Vail, and K2 Recons, and it has a beat, and I was skeptical. I got in them, the same size foot as me. I put them on, I skied on them. Wow, these feel good. These feel really comfy. They cinched down, even with my skinny flat foot, it cinched down nice. I felt really wrapped. I really liked it. Now, the big controversy is BOA creep. They're putting BOAs down on the upper cuff of boots. And a guy I respect a lot and is hugely respected in the boot fitting and ski industry is George Michelson of the Ski Monster shop in Boston. Now, the Ski Monster, I've written a little bit about, that's probably the hippest ski shop on the planet. And it does a huge volume. It's Boston's biggest ski shop. They cater to everybody. People who go out west, people who ski east. George went on a kind of a diatribe on there. They have a pod, a gear pod, and he kind of went on a diatribe in it last spring against double BOAs. They're hard to get into. The BOA at the top, with all the cables and everything, you have to like pull the cables apart to shove your boot in there. And everybody hates a ski boot that's hard to get into, right? And so he actually is a ski boot retailer, a big ski boot retailer, and an expert on this stuff. And he's against the double BOA. Okay. Now they're everywhere, and so verdict is still out on the double. The single is a success. People out there, you should try them, see if you like them. I do, but I'm not ditching my old buckle boots either. But they captured a huge segment of the boot market. The only thing is, guess who doesn't use BOA's closure is pro ski racers or World Cup and Olympic ski racers for a number of reasons. One is there are these big bulbous things that add weight to the boot, and also they carve so much. The centrifugal forces put them so much near the snow that the huge BOA knob will dig into the snow when you carve at that dramatic an angle. Wow. Yeah. So the anti-BOA people were worried about their reliability. That hasn't turned out to be the case. They are super reliable. And BOA has like a lifetime warranty and they ship you a part if you need it. So, it started out with 4 major ski boot brands that had a collab with BOA. And now it's like 6 or 8 brands. Everybody's got them. Everybody's selling them. It's more than a fad, but less than a revolution.
So you think we're still going to see buckle boots in 10 years?
Yes. You should try on a pair of BOAs. I mean, I know you're not a gear guy, but at some point, try on a pair and see if you like them.
That's why I'm asking, because if I'm asking about it, that means it's getting enough attention that this boulder is rolling downhill. And You either need to figure out how to jump on it or get out of the way. So, all right, Shaun, I could keep going all day, but we should wrap it up. So thanks as always, man. I'll see you same time, same place next year.
Yeah, if I don't see you at first at the Watchussett chairlift opening.
Oh, I'll see you somewhere first, but I mean on the podcast.
On the slopes, yeah.
That was our pal, Shaun Sutner. Excellent as always, Shaun. I hope we can make some turns this winter. I hope you are feeling better, my man. If you liked that conversation, I think you will like the rest of the content that I'm kicking out at stormskiing.com. So please subscribe to the Storm Skiing newsletter. You can also follow The Storm on X, Instagram, and YouTube at Storm Ski Journal. Remember, you can watch the podcast. Until next time, stay well, stay safe. I am Stuart Winchester, and I will talk to you again very soon.
The Storm Skiing Podcast is a Quicksilver Films production.